Hello, and welcome to Superbwoman Sundays at 7. I am your hostess, Janet Neal, the founder and queen bee at the Superbwoman Incorporated. I'm so happy to have you with us tonight. And of course, I have another fabulous guest with me, Nicky Mesiah, Miss Nicky, to those of you who know her. And I will get to Nicky in just a minute. But first of all, let me just explain about the Superbwoman. I started this show because I have this belief that women can and will change this world when we believe in ourselves, when we come to realize the power that we innately have. And that power comes from being ourselves, from taking the time to step back, to understand what's most important to you, what your values are, what your strengths are, your talents, your passions, and then crafting and living a life that supports all of that. I tell you, I have met women who so exemplify this, that are living these amazing, powerful lives. They're normal, ordinary women who are doing amazing things because they are letting their own lights shine. And because I have seen so many of these women and I wanted their examples to get out there, I started this show, Superbwoman Sundays at 7, as a way to let these women tell their stories, how they came to be the powerful person that they are today. So tonight's guest, Nicky Mesiah, I met when she and I were both at an entrepreneur fair in Newark, New Jersey, a few years ago. And what drew me to Nicky was two things. Number one, her toffee. If you get a chance, and I certainly hope you do, and at the end of this, we'll put up some contact information so you can go there and get some yourself. But oh my goodness, it's the best toffee. So that was number one draw. And then it was Nicky's smile. She just draws you in, and she has the warmest, most genuine personality. And it's the type of person you just want to get to know. So tonight, let's get to know Nicky. Nicky, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Janet. That was such a nice welcome. My goodness.
See, you never knew, right?
You know what? I didn't know, and I love being a superb woman and follow your shows. And it's just great that you encourage other women to follow their passion and do exactly what they want to do.
Thank you.
And I'd like to tell you, I'm sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I want you to tell your story, is what you were just going to say. So, Nicky, let me just tell people, Nicky is from Buffalo, New York, went to Mount Holyoke, and worked in retail, lived in New York City, did all of these amazing things, and now she makes healthy and delicious toffee and butterless, flourless, eggless cookies that, let me tell you, she makes these for celebrities. So, Nicky, tell us a story. How did you go from Buffalo, New York to cookie maker to the stars now?
Well, I have to tell you, I absolutely love Buffalo, New York. And if you know me, you know that I love good food. And Buffalo is known for great food, family, which I cherish. And gosh, where do I start? It's such a circuitous route, but I will briefly go into who I am, which I'll go into that first because then you'll understand the rest of the story. I'm a very passionate person. I love food. I cherish my friends and family, good friends. And Buffalo is a small community. I was lucky enough to go to a great school for 13 years, which was on a college campus, which gave me and exposed me to a lot of experiences and diversity that I would not normally have bouncing around. And when you live with kids and you're with people who are in school for 13 years, they're like your brothers and sisters too. And it was an environment that fostered independence, that fostered creativity, and it was really ahead of its time. So it allowed you to, I say with food, and I always loved food, that although the cuisine it wasn't as varied as you think, but when you think about it, you crossed with Jewish foods and Christian foods, which even then in a school was a big deal back in the 60s.
Absolutely.
So I learned to love kosher salami as much as I loved hard salami. They learned to love my mother's waffles and bacon as much as I loved the kugel and other things. But when you're in a small city, and I think people forget about Buffalo and food. They think of Buffalo being steeped in snow, but they don't know that at the turn of the century, Buffalo had more millionaires than any other city. So it's also steeped in culture and class. And as a result, being a small city, you crisscrossed with the politicians, with everyone. It's a city of neighborhoods. My father grew up in an Italian neighborhood, so I love Italian food. And all of this is brought together, interwoven, and my mother is an outstanding cook. My father is an excellent cook. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. And of course, what did girls do? They were up under their mothers learning how to cook. My mother loved to entertain. She's very discerning and particular. And things had to be excellent. My job as a kid was to set the table every night. When my parents entertained, and went to the catering facility, I was able to pick out the silver, the flatware dishes. I accompanied my dad, and we were actually my parents' wait staff. So the introduction to food all came from family, diversity at school, fun. I had a great life, as lives go. We lived near the park, so I loved the outdoors. I always exercised, took dance, ballet 3-4 times a week. So I incorporated that exercise into my life also. What kid doesn't love, what girl? I have 2 sisters, I'm in the middle. So what girl doesn't love clothes and accessories? So I learned at a young age the art of negotiation with my dad, that if I maintained good grades in the honor roll, I would get a handbag or shoes. Those are my loves. They are still my loves.
That's a pretty good.
I understood. Yeah, I understood the value of good grades, and that as a woman of color, as as a woman, that to have an extra edge, that I would need that added edge in life, which is why I chose Mount Holyoke. I chose the top school because I wanted to live my best life. Oprah always talked about living your best life. She's right. You're only here for a short period of time. And as women, we don't live our best life until it's too late. And I understood at an early age, there was a lot of living to do. And I chose to remain single because as jobs opened up in the 80s, I graduated from Mount Holyoke. I went back to Buffalo, worked for a newspaper, then went to JCPenney, started a career in retailing, went through the management training program. I was promoted, moved to Saratoga Springs, and from Saratoga Springs, I went from retail sales to here in New York to outside sales. And having to negotiate and sell myself to Pfizer and tell them, yes, I could do outside sales. I'm able to do it. And they were saying, well, you're in retail sales. Mm-hmm. That's a totally different animal. I had to convince them that I could do the job and that they should pay me as much as they pay the men. They thought I would come in at the low end, and I insisted upon coming in at the top end of that salary, because women don't realize that you'll never make up that money, that differential, if you don't come in at the high end. You're not going to make it up. Those are
And what year was that? That's pretty forward thinking on your part.
Pardon me? Yes. Well, I'm sorry, go on.
I was going to say, what year was that?
When I I moved here in 85. So wow. I started that negotiation in 84.
Wow. You're a trailblazer, Nicky.
I think that Sheryl Sandberg, say what you want, and women are very hard on other women, but mm-hmm. she's right. Women do not advocate for themselves. They don't fight for themselves. It's not even a struggle. they don't open their mouths. And I credit my schooling and small classes, but I never thought about not speaking up because a boy was in the classroom. I never thought about dumbing down. I always wanted to be the best that I could be. I was competitive, but not at the risk of forfeiting my social life, because I enjoyed socializing and I enjoyed life. I was not going to be as smart as the smartest kid in the class or the top two, and that was fine. I was still a good student, still making the honor roll, able to dance because I loved the arts, that it was all well-rounded. You know, I played the flute, I wasn't in the Philharmonic, but my family had, you know, we had good friends who were. So all of that is what makes me who I am. And I think it's important that you're well-rounded, you know, in travel. You know, I traveled extensively, but all of that adds to who I am. And I have to say, one of the biggest impacts in school, I had a friend with leukemia. And I used to carry this contraption around so that she could hear the lessons in class. And having visited her at this cancer hospital made a huge impact on me, and probably the first time I realized the importance of food as it relates to people who have been diagnosed with an illness that they can no longer eat everything that everybody else is eating. And that always lived with me. And then when I moved to, I was with JCPenney, and I told you I moved to New York in '85. I again volunteered. Always did a lot of volunteering at Sloan Kettering, because Sloan Kettering happened to be one of my accounts. The company that I worked for did makeup for Look Good, Feel Better. And I was in the fragrance and cosmetics business in New York. So you say I made that leap from inside sales at JCPenney and changed corporate policy. And once I did that and realized I didn't want to go any further, that's when I looked, which was about 5 years, when I decided to look for the job in outside sales, because my salesman who would come visit me, who I would buy from, seemed to have the life of Riley. And I'm managing 24 people. They've got one person to worry about. They show up, they write the order, and you have sales goals. And I said, I want that job. And it was only men who were coming in to see me. So as luck would have it, someone asked me if I was interested in interviewing, and I was. I went through about 6 months of interviews before I was hired. And again, when I came to New York, I volunteered for Look Good, Feel Better at Sloan Kettering long before the Susan G. Komen. And that had an impact on me again. And again, it was the food that you can't eat. I said, what do you do when you're given a diagnosis of cancer, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and you still want to eat? And physicians were not equipped with discussing nutrition. Even my doctor had said they don't learn that in med school. Right. So here I am pioneering and creating foods for people to eat. And when I launched my business, I said I would not have fried chicken or Southern foods or gunked up foods, but food as medicine, food that would break down in the body and help you, either with fiber, bringing the fat away, and just being delicious yet healthy. So I created foods with benefits, also low calorie, and I was so vigilant that I have someone who makes the nutritionals for the food. So I'm not just saying this is low calorie, this is low fat. The nutritional information is there to support it. And that's what people need. There's transparency. I've always been proud to display my labels. And as a result, you say celebrity, you know, I do food for celebrities. I remember this is where my crossed cosmetics maven and local celebrity, who's been a wonderful motivating and motivator to me and mentor, because there aren't many women who are paving the way like she did and I was in the same field as Bobby. So I remember when she first started out, because I was in that industry and in New York, and it was a big deal. And then no, having her live in Montclair, and years later running into her, we also supported the same charity in New York called Partnership for the Partnership for the Homeless. And I used to give product from my company, and she would give product from hers. And I loved it. There would be bags, Bobby Brown bags on the seats, and I would swap mascara for lipstick in the bag next to me. And I'm still a big lipstick lip gloss gal. Slumped into Bobby Montclair, and she knew who I was, and one thing led to another. And Bobby was ahead and on the forefront of eating healthy, and asked me if I would develop some healthy treats, and I created the BFE cookies, these butterless, flourless, eggless cookies for Bobby. And they're vegan, again, butterless, flourless, eggless, but they're made with oats and organic flax and or millet. So there's no corn, no rice, no soy. And working at Sloan and at Roswell, soy is not good for women. And because it mimics estrogen. So, and if you notice the sales of soy, now that people are becoming familiar, the sales are down also. And I always believed no additives, no preservatives, no corn syrup. I remember when I was educating and teaching people at the Y, that they looked at me like I had 10 heads when I talked about high fructose corn syrup. So really, 10 years, we've come a long way. And as baby boomers and millennials also, I feel that they want and need the same thing. Both are looking for healthy food, more organics, a few ingredients, transparency. Well, this is what I've always done. So I'm ahead of the ball game there. And in addition to, pardon me?
Once again,
and that's making the mark. I'm a compassionate person. I am, as my mother would say, fiercely loyal. And I see the need for women. I see the need for my parents. Everyone's getting older. It's obvious the population is aging. No one's getting younger. Yet the food in the stores was just horrible. So I've always enjoyed, just like I did in corporate life, changing policy on a corporate level. And now I'm changing the way people eat and giving you something good. And I'm proud to say that I have many diabetic customers in addition to Bobby. And now people are coming and seeking me out. In the beginning, and yes, I had customers. That's not what I'm saying. And the Toffee, which everybody loves, debuted on the Today Show back in 06, 07. And I'm proud to say that I was on Dr. Oz in 2013. That I'm amazed at what we can do as women and what I've done. And I've always said, you've got to, it's not knocking on the doors. You have to kind of kick in the door when you're a woman, because that's what men do. And if you look or ask, if you don't demand or ask for it, you're not going to get it. And that's just the way sales is. I've always been in a sales position, dog eat dog, and I understand. So, and it's, when I was in high school, I sold more ads in the yearbook than anyone else. So that sales background came from an early age. I happened to be president of my senior class, but book staff and selling, that has been my love. And it's funny that what I learned and what I developed as a child is what I did professionally. I am a laid back person. I'm competitive, but I've never been one who was interested in being all dolled up, which is why I chose Mount Holyoke. It looked like a school that was laid back. Like I said, in pushing the envelope, and I love life, and I like to party, and especially back then, I was visiting friends, staying with friends at Radcliffe up in Cambridge, I had an interview to Mount Holyoke, to Wellesley, a bunch of schools, and I canceled them all to hang out with my friends. And I I sat on pins and needles waiting for the Holyoke letter, and thank goodness I got in. But I also believe in my gut reaction. I make decisions and believe in my gut. And I realized at 20 years old that my gut was just about perfect. My mom has instincts that are pretty perfect, and I have the same, and I trust me, and I trust myself, I trust my instincts, but I also make educated, calculated decisions. I don't just shoot from the hip. I have a good idea, and I'm able to quickly put that idea into action. And you have to work a little bit harder, perhaps, but I understand the two. And as women, we have to, yes, unfortunately, you have to work a little harder because women have been deemed invisible. Mm-hmm. It's like I wondered where Sheryl Sandberg, I wish Sheryl was around when I was in corporate life, because oftentimes I'm the one sitting at the table. I mean, you go to these great corporate meetings, and guess what? If you didn't play golf, all the guys are talking about golf, and of course it's being picked up by the corporation, and eventually they said, you know what, we'll make it even and give women or give everybody $200 a day, you know, whatever it cost for the fees on the golf course. So and going to lunch, it was the men who all went together. So you really, if you didn't make your presence known and say what you wanted, you didn't get it, plain and simple.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you a question, Nicky. So you obviously are a self-starter and someone, I love what you were just saying about listening to your gut, because so many of us may not even hear it, but I think there's a large number who hear it and don't honor it. So I really like the point that you made about that. I think that's really important. But let me ask you a question, because we cannot do this all by ourselves. So
correct.
Who are some people who have helped you on your path?
Well, I would say from the earliest would be my parents, because they instilled that you're able to do whatever you want to do, and they made it possible, as parents do, to make it accessible for you to get what it is you want. So my parents, my mother and father, would be first. Rick James, who was one of the funniest people I ever met from Buffalo, who I used to hang out with, probably much to my mother's dismay after going to college. But I knew Rick before he was the Rick James, and we liked music. He loved music, and we used to hang out in clubs listening to music. And I love music and dance, as I told you, and all of the arts. And then he became famous. And I have to say, something that influenced me and that friendship is that I came from this world of 9 to 5, and you're with a musician. They go 24 hours, or they get up at 10 o'clock at night to hit the clubs. So it was a totally different, and when you're out there, you see other people who work through the night, and it's just a totally different world. So I always thank goodness for him and seeing that kind of crazy side, because I haven't known a musician since who I could have, Rick allowed me and a good friend to ride on the bus to his first tour, which was from Buffalo to Rochester, and Prince opened up for Rick.
That's
imagine.
Amazing. I can't,
That's never going to happen again. And no. You can only, and you appreciate it when you're in your 20s, right? When you don't have all of the encumbrances. So he was a big influence. Since I've come here, I would say Bobby, in doing what I want to do, because she's a strong woman, and like I knew her in cosmetics. I didn't know her personally when I was in the cosmetics industry, but we all knew who she was. I mean, it was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And then to actually create something for her, and this is a woman who created and took women from the blue eyeshadow from the disco phase to a very natural look, which women are experiencing today. And actually, she's gone through this renaissance. She is more famous than she was back in the 90s when she sold the company. I mean, everybody wanted to, we all said, oh, we want to work for Bobby Brown or Estee Lauder. But one thing I learned is that you don't have to, like for Lauder, and what I learned is if you treat people well and you do the best you can do, and do the best and go a little bit above, that people will seek you out. And I always said, if you're the best or you have the best product, people will find you. And that's how I always said I wanted to build my reputation. I wanted to be the best. I'm not cutting any corners. I'm going to tell you like it is. I believe in transparency, and what you see is what you get.
Yep.
I haven't.
That.
Right. I mean, I didn't even wear makeup, and I sold it and was a top performer. And to be a top, when I made President's Club, and again, you're competing with guys. When you're not in the prestigious sales club, you think everybody is in there but you. And then when you get in, you realize it's the same people repeating. And I will never forget 1990, June, first half, my numbers were 123.1%, which made me number 6, put me at number 6. But President's Club, you had to be the top 5. So imagine that 123% wasn't good enough. I would have to come in at almost 150%. So, and that was a year I went to Israel. I was in my friend's wedding. I had the greatest time. I took off for about 10 days. And I said, I got to get back. I cannot continue. They were going to Eilat and other spots in the Middle East. And I said I would never forgive myself if I missed the President's Club because I was hanging out on the beach too long. So I came back, and December sales came in, and the sales meeting was the following year, spring of 91, that I came in number 2 in the country. And immediately I'm taking out a calculator saying, could I have been number 1? That's how crazy you get when you're in sales.
Oh, I know.
And I'm happy.
Having been there. Yes, I understand that. We're running out of time here, and I just want to ask a couple more questions. We
sure.
talked about shoulds when I talk about Superbwoman as realizing that the shoulds are things that contain guilt and pretty much hold you back. What's one should that you've released in your life?
Well, I'll tell you, I am very comfortable with me and grateful, thankful that my parents made me and taught us to be comfortable within our own skin. So I don't really have any shoulds, except when I was in Hawaii, I should have gone on to Hong Kong.
Yeah. Because
I was so close. It was a stop away that I should have just continued, because I don't know when I'm going to get there, if ever. So, but I realized that I don't have many like I said, I'm very comfortable with me.
Well, that's important, and I think that actually is actually more telling than people who have a lot of shoulds to let go of. That people who are comfortable in their own skin don't have a lot of shoulds. So actually, not having them is a great answer.
Oh, great.
You passed. But let me just wrap it up here, Nicky, by asking you what's next. What have you got going on? What's coming up for you?
Well, I have remained on the healthy eating. I don't know if you can see my sneakers and
yes.
my
very
bike.
Nice sneakers.
But the next step is to actually sell and/or lease the recipe for my cookies, my butterless, flourless, eggless cookies, to someone I've had Whole Foods interested, and they invited me in to take a look, and other companies, but it's to get my cookie out worldwide, nationwide, worldwide, to people because it is a missing commodity. And again, it has no butter, no flour, no eggs, but it also has no soy, no corn, no rice. And it helps, like I said, whether it's diabetic, I did the research and coordinated with people I knew who are diabetic. the autistic community. Um, and like I said, it's so low in calorie and carbs that diabetic patients can eat it, those with all types of afflictions, and that's what you want. And now I find myself with a dairy intolerance that I need to eat the things that I've created. I can no longer eat everything. So my next goal is to sell the recipe to someone who can make it, distribute it, and that's the last leg of the journey.
Oh, I wish you a lot of luck in that one. And let me just say, her cookies are not only healthy, but truly delicious. So, how can people get your cookies and your other
Well, if
cookies?
they go to my website
Mm-hmm.
at missnickys.com, and Nickys, I don't know if you can see this, but if you go to the website, you can find me, contact information, or email me, and it's at various locations in Montclair, from the main library to the yogic chai at the train station to miso, Ethiopian restaurant, health food restaurant, even in Millburn at Short Hills at Green Juice, the Green Juicery. And if you go online, I have a Facebook page, website. You can call, email me. I'm happy to answer the answers that you have.
Excellent.
And I also want to note that another feature of the cookie is that it's crispy. Most cookies are not. So, and I think once you take out the additives, preservatives, corn syrup, and junk, you're able to have a crispy cookie.
Yeah.
Which is what I like.
They're good. They're really good.
Thanks.
Well, Nicky, I just want to thank you so much for being my guest tonight. You really are a superb woman. You're a woman who is so comfortable in her own skin, and you make other people feel comfortable as a result. And I think you are a wonderful example to women about, listening to yourself and following your passions. So thank you for being my guest tonight.
Thank you very much, Janet. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
That's great. That's great. So let me tell you, next week, my guest is going to be Bobby Van. You do not want to miss her story. Bobby was an investigator on the Boston Strangler case, among others, and then has gone on and talk about a master of change and reinvention. She is now an artist. So we're going to hear her story next week. And I just want to give one more shout out there for all you Silver sisters like myself and Nicky. I'm going to be holding an event in New York City on May 15th. And you can find out more information at the end of this on YouTube. You will see a slide that tells more about it. But it's going to be a day of connection and celebration. And it's not only for those who are silver, but those who are thinking of going silver. You will find that it is a day of empowerment. You will get beautiful headshots that will show off your silver. And in your goodie bag, you will get a little treat from Miss Nicky as well. So please come to that, and please join us next week on Superb Woman Sundays at 7. Until then, have just a fabulous week. Bye-bye.